I'm Andrew Tylinden,
And I'm Diego Diaz.
and on today's podcast, we're going to be discussing the UN's Sustainable Development Goal number 2, zero hunger, as well as our contribution to the pool of ideas that could help make food accessible to everyone and anyone one day. In 2015, the UN released a list of 17 interlinked global goals called the 2030 Agenda. They created these goals to lead the way to a better and more sustainable future for the Earth, given the growing amounts of natural and humanitarian disasters going on. These goals outline specific targets within each goal with indicators that can measure progress. This applies to situations going on in the world like accessing clean energy, to world hunger, as well as gender equality. The UN is really covering a lot of issues under their 17 goals but yeah, we will specifically be talking about goal number 2, which is zero hunger. This goal plans to, quote, end hunger, achieve food security, and improve nutrition, as well as promote sustainable agriculture. Food security and malnutrition are a huge barrier to citizens all over the world. It creates a boundary for a healthy life and increases various forms of stress that are unhealthy for people. Generally, populations that are food insecure at a higher percentage tend to have less productive society and as well as a large amount of health problems throughout the communities of these people in these countries. If this situation does not affect you, that is a blessing. Though we live in the US, which is a developed country, about 11% of the population in the US has food insecurity issues. This means a lack of access to food or a disruption of food intake or eating patterns due to a lack of resources. As it was, food insecurity was on the rise. According to the UN's food insecurity infographic, the population affected by food insecurity was already on the rise from 22.4% in 2014 to 25.9% in 2018. Additional stresses due to the pandemic and lockdown measures are speculated to have increased these numbers. Because of these things, it is important that everyone tries to come up with an idea towards a sustainable future. Our idea was based around a self-sustainable type of agriculture on a small population. We wanted to think of a way to provide food through agriculture on a small scale, much like gardening, but adapted to urban living. So I'm going to pass it off to Diego to talk about some of his stakeholder interviews and the development of our ideas.
Yeah. So for our stakeholder interviews and our stakeholders in general, we wanted to stay as general as possible. We wanted to really have something that was an everyman situation because we wanted this product to be able to be used by non-gardeners, by experienced gardeners, by just some random person in their apartment. We wanted this to be something that could be used by anyone. And that being said, we both split up and interviewed the people near us, interviewed the people around us. Andrew had mentioned before that in his circle there wasn't a lot of people who gardened, but in my circle there were. And as we interviewed, we still found that very similar ideas came through. They wanted something that was easy to use. They wanted something that was easy to pick up, easy to understand, nothing too complicated, nothing too involved. Because that makes sense. The world moves fast, and you want something easy. You don't want something too difficult to use. Um, with that in mind, we started developing some ideas of simple, easy to use, to easy to execute gardening and community garden type ideas. A couple of them were vertical farming and hydroponic farming, both of which use hydroponics to make salads and tomatoes and lettuces and things like that to grow as the garden's produce. Along with that, we also had in mind um, these two also share a similar idea: roll out fields and blocks of already germinated and already nutritious dirt that could be used to then just implant into the ground, and then you take care of that patch, and that patch grows the produce that you are then going to eat. Um, these were already had a couple problems in the concept stages, the hydroponic ideas especially. The hydroponic ideas more than anything, because if the area that you were doing this in lacked sanitation or lacked clean water or lacked access to clean water, um, it would be very easy for this stagnant water to grow things like cholera and other waterborne diseases. Um, and like, since we wanted to make this a product that could be used by everyone, by a worldwide sector of people, we knew that we couldn't do that because there were places that don't have access to clean water very easily, that don't have access to sanitation very easily. And that in mind, this hydroponic system could potentially cause more harm than good. It could potentially cause things like cholera outbreaks. Along with that, our other ideas with the implantation of soil and other uh, uh, dirt blocks, dirt fields to just lay out and grow on. Those would work until uh, the nutrition in the actual soil kind of disseminated throughout the rest of it until it evened out, as soil tends to do. And it would really only function for a limited amount of time. We don't know if that time would even allow for many of the crops to grow, since a lot of the crops take a long time to grow. The idea we did end up hitching onto and running with was the idea of a potato chest. The reason a potato chest was chosen, the reason potatoes first off were chosen as the main produce for this um, product, were because they're easy to grow. They're hardy. They can withstand a lot of temperatures and atmospheric conditions and a lot of changes. They are very, very easy to grow. They can grow in your cabinet. So to grow a potato is not a daunting task for someone who has never grown a vegetable before. This idea of the potato chest is a ice chest with racks of soil in it, and these soil racks have potatoes in it. And the way that you water these potatoes and take care of these potatoes is you water the top rack, and then that water slowly drips and drips through all the racks, watering all of them. Uh, Again, since it's an ice chest, it would have a water escape valve, so no still water, nothing to to potentially cause any sort of virus. Another reason this product was chosen was because it's simple to build. A hydroponic system would be difficult to build out in the middle of nowhere, even in the middle of an urban city. It would be difficult to grow and difficult to have around. Um, Things like the dirt block in an urban city would be not very useful because, again, possibly hard to ship in, possibly hard to make, but these chests would be very easy to make. Um, Adding up the cost for just one of them with hardware supplies, it costs around $20 to build one of them, and this is only through a regular hardware supplier like the Home Depot. When you get to ordering big numbers, the price would go down. So feasibly, each rack could cost less than $20 to make. Each ice chest could be sold again for a very cheap price, since it would really only have to be a box with a hole at the bottom. Um, yeah, easy construction, could be done with minimal tools, just a couple 2x4s, some nails, and chicken wire for the bottom to keep the soil in place, but to let the water run through. Uh, and yeah, that it's a pretty simple product uh, for a pretty simple objective by design.
Yeah, some excellent points. Thank you for describing that whole process, Diego. It was it took us a while to narrow it down to the potato chest because we thought we had some good ideas at first, but I also agree that the potato chest so far was the most practical. It seemed like the most possible because, like you said, potatoes really grow anywhere. But yeah, so we're gonna kind of talk about how all that applies to the sustainable development goal number 2. I think it really um, it works within the realm of what this goal is trying to do. We wanted to create a design that was easily bought or easily replicated. We need something that was inexpensive to make for just common everyday people. We focused our prototype on found items in our own respective homes. I know mine originally revolved around the ice chest and some 2x4s as well to create space for the potatoes. I had some soil laying around. I think soil, that whole part, that part was crazy. But yeah, this idea could be made from recycled plastic as well if it were to be manufactured. We would probably want plastic that has already been used to, reinforce that idea of sustainability. We really would like to use any plastic that's already out and about in the world that could be, made into a product to be disseminated to everyone. Our concept builds on sustainable development goal 2 by attempting to make a product from these reusable materials, as well as recycling the water used in the system. We wanted something that could be accessed by anyone, from an individual to a small community. It needed to be easily learned as well. We want people to be able to grow food in a sustainable way, in a non-confusing way as well. And that's why we based this first idea, especially around potatoes, because they're so simple to grow. This concept is communal in nature, and I think growing food is important, and I would like people to grow enough food to help others. That's my personal view on it. I think this concept that we have really lends itself to that, because you only need so much food for yourself. So if a lot of people are growing a lot of food, they'll have more to give away instead of, trying to sell it. If you're just growing it in your backyard, you already filled its utility, you're feeding your family with it. And the idea becomes even more involved when we mix the idea of GMOs in it, because if we're able to provide nutrient rich food to these people, that we're really trying to do what SDG 2 is talking about, and lower hunger. But yeah, so moving.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh yeah, did you have anything to add to that, Dave?
Yeah, just something to add to the GMO point. A lot of already existing community gardens, uh, from research that I've done, do show a lack of nutrition. They make up for, especially in impoverished nations, they make up for caloric deficit for sure, because it's just more food, it's more massive food. But the actual nutrients in the food barely change. And with things like GMO potatoes, it's easier to get some vitamins into you. A good example are there are yellow, orange lab potatoes that have infused vitamin A and vitamin E into them, and it has been found that they can provide to a child as much as 42% of a child's recommended dose of vitamin A and 34 of vitamin E, just by being a regular potato that's been cooked and that has these vitamins impregnated into it, which is really good. I think it's really, really fun.
Yeah, absolutely. Why do you think, I guess there's no question as to why we should end world hunger at all. No, there's no why, but like what is, in your opinion, if we hadn't done something like this, what do you think we could have done? Or yeah, if you hadn't done something like this, what do you think you would have done?
Yeah, I think it kind of bounces off the idea that you had put forward earlier of having this um, community that not only has the food for themselves but has an abundance of food for themselves and gives it away. Uh, I think food redistribution would be something else that could be looked at, apart from just like looking at your own food. I think being able to get large companies or grocery stores or restaurants or farmers to be able to say, all right, we have all this food that we do have. What's a safe way that we can redistribute this so that we don't just toss it in the garbage?
Yeah, absolutely. Because I was reading something just more in relation to the sustainable development goal, like less on our idea, but just towards that. an estimated 2 billion people in the world did not have regular access to safe, nutritious, and sufficient food in 2019. And to me, that's like insane. That's 2 years ago. And we're what, 7 billion or 8 billion now? That's a significant chunk of the world's population. So
Yeah,
I think ideas like this, or you're kind of putting the idea on the person or the individual or maybe like a community, and you're taking a bit of the burden off like the government in a way. You're kind of
yeah,
putting this responsibility to people, and you really hope they take it and they follow through with it. Like I'd really hope if we were able and we were able to um you know distribute it, I'd hope people grew food and were able to share it with others that didn't.
exactly. I think that giving people the power to make their own food is extremely important,
Yeah, yeah,
and giving them the power to know what they're eating is also extremely important, because the nutrition is important for people who are impoverished, but for people here in like America, like we said, it's hard to know what you're eating a lot of the times. It's hard to know what you're putting into yourself. And if you grow it yourself, you know exactly what's happening.
absolutely. And to your point too, just how you're talking about the US, how we still have hunger in here. I was reading that since like 1995, according to not the FDA, but it's the US Department of Health, I believe. They cited that since 95, there's been a constant 10 to 11% of food security in the US. And I think that's ridiculous to me because, we call ourselves the richest country in the world and stuff. And I don't think it would take much to help provide to those that can't. So that's where we come in our generation of engineers. You have to like come up with ideas. Um, yeah, that'll hopefully help solve the problem because it
Yeah,
is.
exactly.
Yeah. Did you have
Yeah.
anything to add to that point? Sorry.
No, I was just agreeing with you.
Yeah, I think just the fact that it was a consistent 11% for like 20 years, where there's people struggling to get food. Um, I don't know. To me, it's a little unacceptable, but that's why I enjoy um, sustainable concepts and sustainable ideas. Because going back a little bit to the potato chest idea, I think the 3D rendering that we had designed, it really would be able to fit in something like like a vertical farm room, how we were talking about that. But that's a little more difficult to navigate, but it would fit comfortably in an area like that. You could have it outside, or you could have it by a window. The whole thing about the potato chest, as we're calling it, is that you could, hopefully it'll work anywhere besides like Alaska where there's extreme cold. Other than that, it will virtually be able to grow these nutrient dense potatoes everywhere and anywhere. And
Exactly.
yeah, but yeah. So I guess we could do a quick resummation of everything. Um, yeah.
Yeah.
So essentially, we today we talked about the SDGs that Sustainable Development Goals that the UN had enacted in 2015. It was a list of 17 different goals that have to address certain deficiencies that they see in the world. And we specifically focused our idea on the SDG number 2, which revolves around zero hunger. And that plans to end hunger and achieve food security for everyone. Our design is, it's mixed in perfectly with the idea of sustainability. And, we're trying to make something out of just common household items that is easily replicable. And we want this uh, potato chest to serve as an idea seed to jump off on for other people as well. We wanted to create something that was simple in nature and applicable to put in your room, in your backyard, anywhere where there's active light. And we think it really applied to SDG number 2, the zero hunger goal, because we are approaching it from the perspective of an every person. You know, we're just trying to find what the common person thinks about gardening, and we really wanted to make it easy for everyone, and as well as, you know, sustainable. We want you to recycle the water used in it. We want recycled materials, hopefully, if you have to make the potato chest. But yeah, essentially that's what we're kind of working with. So do you have anything else to add, Diego, before we?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, just to sum up again what the product itself is, just to leave it fresh in the minds of the listeners. It's simple. A box with racks of soil that you water, uh, every other day, every 3 days, and you can grow potatoes in these racks of soil, making it something that's easy to use, making it something that's effective, and something that grows, something that can really be substantial for very cheap, and for not a lot of learning, not a very big learning curve.
Yeah, perfect. Yeah, I think that sums it up perfectly. And yeah, thank you for listening to this podcast with us. We put in a lot of research and a lot of prototyping to it, you know, or, you know, at least conceptual prototyping. But
Yeah.
yeah, thank you. And I'm Andrew.
Thank you very much. I'm Diego. Very much.